Oh yeah! Welcome to the Knowledge Drop. We got the one and only B-girl Candy, all the way from NYC. How you doing? Reporting live from IBE.
Yes, I am. Are we looking forward at each other?
We can freestyle. It's all good.
Cool. Yeah, man. We're here at IBE, judging Undisputed. Have a very long day ahead of us.
One day behind, and today, how many we have? 320 B-boys and 100 B-girls. So it's going to be kind of a long day.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Anyhow, level was pretty crazy, and I was happy about yesterday. Rode pretty smooth.
Yes.
So it shouldn't be too draining today.
Yeah, and we're doing what we love, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's all good.
I get to do it with great people all around the world, so it's amazing, basically. Let's take it back to the beginning. How did you get started? What inspired you when you got into breaking back in the days?
So for me, being in New York, breaking was always just around. I think it was just part of like everyday life. Someone would always break, like at a party or something, but it wasn't like b-boying. It was just like everybody kind of knew how to do a move. Like my stepdad knew how to up rock, and he would just do stuff like that, or he'll do like a 6-step. So it was always around. But the proper introduction was my cousin was dating a b-boy, and he took me to my first jam, and it was called Battle of the Boroughs, and it was a crew battle, and the final battle was Floor Lords versus Breaks Crew, and so I still remember like so clearly, and I was like, I could do what they're doing, because I've always been like a dancer, but socially. But I was like, oh, I think I could do what they're doing. And I started like trying top rock on the spot. And they're like, oh, yeah. And someone said, yeah, but girls do this, but they don't stick to it. And I was like, and for me, that was like
Watch me.
Yeah. I was like, oh, really?
There you go.
So then since then, like this was back when the internet just like literally started. It was like AOL Messenger there was not even Messenger. It was just chat rooms.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me find breaking chat rooms and trying to find people. And like, if I saw someone like, oh, do you know this person? Or if I know a few writers in school. So I asked them, do you know any b-boys? So it was really like seeking it out, and also getting told like no a lot, because of this like conception of girls don't do it for a long time.
Oh, interesting.
So it's really harsh in New York. It was really like you had to fight to kind of get someone to teach you.
You had determination, and that's interesting that you kind of see it as a party dance at first, but then you find the lifestyle and get deeper into it, and you have to fight your way in.
Yes.
makes you appreciate it more too, probably.
Yeah, for sure. Like I remember to even call myself a B-girl was a long a process. Like I think I tried to say it at first, and they're like, no, you're not a B-girl yet. And I was like, why? And they're like,
New York tough love.
Yeah, it's like, no, to be a B-girl, you got to cipher. You haven't ciphered yet. Okay, so let me cipher. No, you're still whack. Okay.
That's the way you learn.
Yeah, so it was a process for sure.
All right. What year was this, around?
2000.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So 23 years in the game by now.
Yeah, I would say like it started end of 2000. 2001-ish is when I really started looking for practice, but then 9/11 happened in 2001. So I had a big break, because obviously the city kind of shut down, and really like around January I found Rockefeller and Quick Step. They had a program where they were teaching, and that's when I was able to finally get the right teaching, or someone to actually show me like, this is a 6-step and this is this, and
Okay. Rockefeller and Quick Step, if you don't know, look it up. Any other influences from back in the days, around these times?
Breaks Crew for sure. And then so I was like, who's the people, right? Rockefeller and Quick Step showed me for a bit. Then I got told about Rocksteady Crew, so I started looking, who's in Rocksteady Crew? And that's when I heard about Ken Swift. And so I looked for Ken Swift, like literally. I was like, how can I find this man? And I emailed him, and he was like, yeah, come down, come practice. And so then I started practicing with him about 2 years into my breaking.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so he was a really big influence.
Wow, the Holy Grail right away.
Yeah, I was
amazing.
Like, let me get in there. And then obviously like VHS tapes that I would see. I think one of the first ones was Lords of the Floor that I saw, Out for Fame. So crews like Skills, Methods, and Um, Probably a lot of like West Coast people, like Style Elements. Furious Styles back then had like two B girls that were really dope that I would always watch. Lady Jules. Yeah, so people that like now don't really break, but
Oh, good. You're still in the game. We're still in the game.
yeah.
I remember coming to New York the first time in 2005, and I met Kenny the year before in Cali. And he gave me his phone number. It's like, if you come to New York, give me a call. So 2005, I'm in New York with the crew, and I'm like, all right, here's a payphone.
Yes.
Get it in, type in the number. He's like, Ken. I'm like, whoa. We're in New York. It's Focus from Finland. I heard you have a spot in Brooklyn, so we need to come to Brooklyn Soul and train with you. He's like, yeah, cool. Come down next Wednesday. I have a session, so I'll see you over there.
Wow.
And you got a lot of respect for a guy like Kenny, and you look up to him. So I was shaking in the phone call. I'm like, oh shit.
Wow. I remember that when you guys came for anniversary. Oh man, it was so dope. Again, to see B girls like Taya and AT, I was like, yeah. You guys were really impressive. I remember that year. You ciphered a lot too, which I think was a big thing back then. Like if you weren't ciphering, you weren't doing anything.
True that.
Which is so different. But yeah, we'll get into that.
How do you feel about today? Like the level of the B girls and the number of B girls is especially the number of B girls is very different than it was back in the days. How do you feel about today's scene from a B girl's perspective?
It's like it's so different. Like the level just shot up so fast. So I feel like there wasn't even a gradual like growth. It was like 1 minute it was, sadly, it's hard to say this, but it was really impressive if you saw a B girl with a lot of power back then. Like you had some that did it, and if they did have a lot of power, they weren't really doing footwork and stuff. It was hard to find like a very well-rounded B girl, and when you did have them, they stood out a lot. Whereas like now everybody has everything. Like I see all these B girls, they got style, flavor, all the things, and they're like air flaring, and I'm like, what?
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm like,
what just happened?
Yeah, and so it's really different. Plus, there's so many.
True.
There's so many, and for me, that's the biggest change, because for a long time there was only like 20 of us, like really, that were really like repping. In the States especially, there was really like 10. I remember when they would do like exhibitions, it was hard to find people sometimes. And then when I came to Europe, I was really impressed because I felt like the level was much higher in Europe. But I think when I started to get to know people, the access to training is a lot higher. Yeah. So that made more sense. But for me, it was really dope to see, because I don't think we saw what we were capable of. And it's such a hardcore scene, especially in New York, that you didn't know. Like, I don't feel like I thought like I could be that or could get those moves. One, because of limitations with practice, the lifestyle was really tough, and the inspirations, we maybe had one person that we saw. When you see someone like you do something, then you're like, oh, maybe I can do it too. Yeah. So coming to Europe was a really big game changer for me, because I was like, oh, there's like the level here is so crazy. Like I could actually do this like at a much higher level. So then it made me push myself too. But now it's like when I see the videos, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave y'all to it now.
And for a breaker in New York, how is it these days? I remember when we used to come earlier days. I remember everybody complaining about very hard to find practice spots, huge distances to places. Cost of living is crazy.
Cost of living is still crazy.
Maybe even more crazy these days. How is it for a breaker to live in the Mecca?
To be honest, the cost of living is still really crazy. There's way more practices now, though. Good. And the community communicates with each other a lot more. There's a lot more interaction in terms of practice. The practice spots are packed, some of them, which is really different because it was very like exclusive before. So it's changed on that level of things, but it's still a really hard place to live, and it's still far distances to practice. I find that, like, for me, it's really hard to train because the practices are really late at night. Yeah. They're far. As a parent, that's hard to do. Even, like, there's kids that are breaking and they'll be, like, the parents will be like, yeah, practices are on Sunday at like 8 o'clock, and I'm like, that's so late for a
It
kid.
doesn't
Like,
work.
yeah, I'm just like, so those are like, there's still challenges, but they're definitely not as crazy as when I was starting out. Yeah.
Combining parenthood and the break life. I'm learning to it right now. My kid is 5.5 months old, so I'm still learning. I'm on the way. I don't know if you ever learn, probably if you find a balance.
Yeah.
How did you manage to be a parent, raise a kid, and also be part of the culture and the lifestyle?
It was a really hard transition for me because I wanted to be very, very present for my son. And I find that also as a woman, it's different too. It's much harder to step away. You're depending on the choices you make. Are you breastfeeding, whatever? So at first, it was cool. I won't complain. The community is very welcoming, and I would take my son to jams, and it was also easier because his father's a b-boy, so we were able to like take him to jams and be like, you hold him and whatever. But I found that identity-wise, it was really tough because for me, it wasn't an easy transition back into the actual practice of breaking. And so when I would go to jams, I felt really like out of touch, or like I couldn't cipher like I used to, couldn't move like I used to. And it's really crazy when you, in your brain, are able to do something, but when you try and do it, your body's like, nah, I don't work like this no more.
Oh my.
So you have to like relearn your body and train. And I have seen B-girls who jump right in, and I'm just like amazing. But for me, the process was much harder. And I'm still actually like going back to it, and I get hurt. In 20 years, I never got hurt. And once I had a kid, I started getting injuries. It was a big, big change. But I find that it actually helps you mentally as a practitioner of this dance program to have a child, because you start seeing the bigger picture much better. And you start seeing breakers in a different light, and especially the younger generation. And for me, it's become more about community and giving back as a parent. Like before, I really was just like, I want to compete, I want to cipher, I want to smoke somebody. And now it's actually hard for me to battle because I don't feel that way anymore. I'm like, oh, like, nah, man, like, it's about sharing. Like, this is a family, community. Like, how can I help you?
Awesome.
Yeah, so, yeah, when I go to practice now, I feel like a mom. Like, I'm like, oh, how, maybe we can work on this. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. You take a step back, see a bigger picture, and actually want to see everybody grow instead of smoking everybody and be the best.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Big things. We live and we learn, we grow. Judging today, you take judging very serious, and you've been part of many discussions in the judging past year or so, when judging is kind of evolving, changing, and becoming more transparent and more organized. How do you feel about going for 300 plus people today and using tools for it and using trained judges? How do you feel about the recent developments?
I think they're really good for the scene, but I think we still have a way to go. But I love to see the seriousness behind it now. Like, and I feel like people think judging is really easy. Like, oh, you just sit there and like you pick your favorite or something, or what you like, or they think it's like about what you like. Because I hear that too, like, oh, focus is judging, so I know I gotta really do this, and I'm like, it's not like that anymore. I think during our time it really was. Like, you knew certain people were up there and what they liked, and you tried to. I feel like I didn't, but a lot of people do try to cater to that. But now having a system creates like a baseline, I think, for everybody. And it's more broad versus like I need to try and cater to a person. Also having a bigger judging lineup, you can't just cater to one person. But I just think the seriousness behind it is really important, because it's breaking more platforms to be on too, because other people are seeing it and taking us more seriously too outside of breaking. So it's creating more jobs too. It's just like a trickle effect. But for me, it's been a really dope learning process, because I think when you start judging, you start with that like, okay, I know that this is what breaking is and this is what should be in there, but then you start learning about like biases, and you start learning about noise and all these other little things, like For me, it was like, what space are you taking up? Dynamics, content, the story. Like, are you facing someone the entire time? So now I'm seeing breaking, and I'm like, it's a different lens for me. Like, it's so much broader, and I'm still learning. And I still, when I judge, go back the battles that I'm like were really close. I go back and watch them, and then I'm like, why did I make that decision? And then I'll talk to Kev about it, and I'm like, Kev, why did you choose that? Especially if we have two, like after UK champs, a few of us were like, there were four of us, and then one would go the other way, and I'm like, why did Focus go that way? Like, let me watch that battle. And that's really important to me because I feel like it's just like breaking. You're developing a judging muscle. And I really want people to know that because I think they think we just did a certification and sit in that chair. But for me, it's really important that I do a good job because I know that what it takes to be up there. And I want to, like, for me, that's how I show people respect too. Like, I'm really coming up here prepared. It's not just my rep that got me here. It's like, I'm really trying to do my best to do a good job for you guys.
And that's what the people deserve who are working their ass off to be on that stage. And it's so competitive right now. So judging should be appreciated and treated with respect like that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, good talk. Let's dive right into it.
Thank you so much.
20 breakers, 100 B girls. Let's do it right away. And that's it, yo. Anybody tuning in, follow Candy on social media, Instagram, and all that good stuff. And head out to bboydojo.com for my free footwork workshop. Peace, peace, peace.
Peace.
You.